Welcome to Sports CTO Talks. In this series, we will be connecting with technology leaders into the sports industry, where we will simplify sports technology. I am Ami, your guide on this journey through the minds of tech leaders who are shaping the industry. We will dive deep into conversations and innovations driving this industry, from AI to cloud, to from cybersecurity to sustainability. If it is sports tech, we are talking about it. Today, we have one of a very interesting guest, Mr. David Geddes. He operates a boutique management consultancy called Coxsoft. The firm specializes in strategic development services for artificial intelligence products, while also offering a hybrid venture studio for companies who seek patent ready artificial intelligence focused intellectual properties. David acts as a fractional executive for small companies, providing a variety of project based services for product teams, boards, and investors. He is also CEO at International Sports Technology Association. ISTA is a trade organization supporting sports technology ecosystem by fostering innovations best practices. It also has a formal relationship with global research firm, a university institute, and an annual conference. We welcome you, David.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you. Today, he will be talking about the role of artificial intelligence in enhancing athlete performance. Once again, we welcome you for your time and, if you could share your experiences and what you do with us.
Sure. As you said, thank you for the introduction. I run a small boutique consulting firm helping artificial intelligence find the sweet spot, right? To find things like product market fit, to find an actual business use case that actually creates growth, savings, or market expansion. So that's what I do for my day job, most of my work that I do. And then I am one of the founders, one of the two co-founders of the International Sports Technology Association. And through that organization, we help small companies who are ready to scale make the leap across oceans to different cultures and different continents. But we also we also have some programs to help hubs, loose, informal hubs, become more formalized into economic development ecosystems around innovation in sports. Because really, sports is such a high visibility activity and business sector that it really attracts a lot of innovations. And so we bring together traditional sports, and that's all the things that you would do for economic development around tourism, bringing in events, growth, and we just add an innovation component to that and bring them together. So that's what we do with the International Sports Technology Association, and of course, I'm happy to talk about artificial intelligence, where I have a variety of different tools that we use. These are, I would say, they're systems engineering tools. Some of the basic foundations and principles around those tools have been around for many decades. So they are really robust tools built on the foundation of artificial intelligence. So that's a little bit about me.
Okay. Like these days, everything is about AI. So, my first question is what excites you most about AI's potential into the sports industry?
Well, I am very cautious about artificial intelligence, although I've been around AI since I was a little baby. My father is a semi-known artificial intelligence scientist, research scientist. So I grew up in a house with my father starting a company in the basement. It wasn't a normal American life, but I had a computer lab in my basement, and so I've been around artificial intelligence since the late 80s. I think he actually started the company in 1990. I see artificial intelligence impacting sports in a wide variety of different ways. obviously, the fusion of information is really the point at where artificial intelligence makes sense. So if you have a variety of data sets, not just a large data set, but a variety of different data sets that you need to fuse information with, that's really where I see the promise of artificial intelligence in sports. And that happens through video, right? Because you can extract data and information from video, and then maybe you might have a hardware driven data from a wearable. And so fusing those two together to make a conclusion, a prediction, an analysis of something that's occurring in real time, perhaps. That's the really exciting part of artificial intelligence for me.
Okay. So, can you walk us through or can you share a few examples in the real world where AI has transformed the teams or the athlete approach in the training?
Yeah, sure. I will say this, just because I have a unique perspective on the global market, let me start out by saying that it is very unusual for a sports organization to actually do AI. Okay. Right now, the way the state of the industry is that normally that's a vendor that comes to them that already does some data service for them. It's a SaaS business model usually that they subscribe to. And this happens from wearables who've now verticalized all of their data. So now you have the data, the wearables, you have the analysis part. And that's really how business has grown AI into sports, is actually sitting on top of the data. So right now, the state of AI in performance athletics in particular is really I think it came really from a desire to understand athlete load, right? The things that the athletes were doing that were getting them injured. So being able to collect good granular data about movement and about um, um, techniques that could possibly result in an injury is really where that started. Um, I don't know. I'm not sure how known your if your listeners know how much data that they're collecting about these athletes, but it's quite a bit of data. Um,
Okay.
so yeah, I
So,
hope I answered your question.
yes, absolutely. So, are there any specific sports or athlete profiles which benefit from the data you're talking about, the AI driven, data? Like, how does it benefit them?
Yeah, so from the athletic trainer's perspective, there's this whole sports medicine team that works around these athletes, and they are typically the ones who are really collecting the um, granular health related data, right? That personalized, individualized health data, and they're also collecting some technical data around that athlete, and that's the performance type things, right? Speed, distance, power, and things like that that they might be looking for in the athlete. So really, the athlete has two types of data where artificial intelligence can work really well. That's the technical data about the performance of the athlete and their development of the sport, and then there's the athlete health, right? The health data. This is the biotechnical data around the athlete. That's oxygen. You have SpO2, which is the oxygen data that tells you whether you're saturated or not. You have EKGs. These are the sensors that you might see for understanding your heart rhythm and your heart rate. Sleeping data, that's really important as well. Now we have new wearable types of sensors for hydration to monitor that. So really you have two types of data where AI works. That's the performance side. Again, speed, distance, power, how well they pass and so forth, how fast they run. And then there's the health side. So that's really where the convergence of AI is right now with athlete performance. And we can talk a little bit more about the different techniques that are used, because really the way when I describe artificial intelligence applications is a little bit different than what most people think of it.
Okay. So if you could share in detail, like that would be really interesting. And
Okay.
like as you said, there are two paths. So like how does that play a role with the cognitive development? Because that at the end is also important part.
Yes, yes. So the cognitive development does live inside the performance side, and that's a state of awareness. So now we have new video data that can actually make predictions or create some level of understanding of the player's awareness on the field around them. So you'll see that in football and soccer, you'll see the players they're touching each other sometimes, right? They're expanding their cognitive perception of their where they are on the field by finding where the player is standing next to them. Okay, so you'll see them looking back and forth and looking back and forth. That's very important data, and that also is being collected in mainly, like I said, the technical performance data because it's not something that's necessarily going to be a health related issue. Um, but there's a lot of data being collected around these athletes, and the way to look at how the market is responding is really through two ideological lenses, and this is kind of how I see AI as market drivers. You have a world of AI that's really about implicit um, pattern matching and discovery. Okay, and I call this the implicit camp, but just really it's pattern matching and discovery. That's really what AI is about when you think of it from a data perspective. And then the other way to think about artificial intelligence is lesser known. Lesser known doesn't mean it's better or worse. It just means that it's not as well understood, and there's a reason for that. But the other side of this is to think of things as being explicit, being artificial intelligence can be coded, it can be designed, it can be explicitly built. Okay, so the way I see artificial intelligence is there's two camps. Okay, you have your data connectionists on one side, and this comes from the data science world, and then you have another side, this explicit side, which is really a systems engineering approach. Okay, so on the systems engineering side, on the explicit side, you're not thinking about how data is connected. You might be thinking about how abstract concepts are connected. So it's a little bit different way of thinking, but that's how I see artificial intelligence today is having these two primary areas. I call them camps, or you can think of them as ideological differences. And and what's really exciting is what's happening in between these two, right? So you have data science today who has matured their tools and processes and are now looking over to the explicit side and saying, hey, what if we brought those two together? What if we brought the implicit data techniques, and there's a few of those. Mainly, it's neural net and recursive learning, deep learning, machine learning. Those are all built on neural nets. That's the implicit side, and then there's the explicit side, the systems engineering side, the design side, the knowledge side. And now you're seeing those two coming together, and that's really exciting because it's happening in sports. It's happening in every industry, and so you'll see the increased interest in something called a knowledge graph. And so that is when you hear the words knowledge graph, that is actually the systems engineering side of artificial intelligence.
Okay, that was really informational. So I have a very simple question. Like, as there is AI, like how can it how can it predict injury risks, and how can it prevent athletes, like beforehand, or like I don't know how it works, but I just want to understand.
Yeah, sure. So to do to do predictions, you don't necessarily need AI, right? So so one of the things that buyers should be aware of in the marketplace, and maybe developers and those that are selling systems should also consider this, is that not everything is sexy AI, right? Um, you can do quite a bit with Python that's not AI, and you can do quite a bit with various data science tools, again, not AI. So you can do statistics and you can do probabilities and you can plug and chug like they taught in school and pull the data elements out and put them into a formula and crunch those numbers to have an output. So that's not necessarily AI, right? Um, so we we got to definitely make sure that we don't get too into the hype of I particularly am concerned about some of the hype around AI. But how the AI systems work is relatively simple. Again, it's pattern matching. So I have a archetype model that I know a behavior looks like this. It has all of these elements, right? An athlete has all of these great elements, and we can point back to the data, right? This is pattern matching and implicit techniques like machine learning off on neural nets, and you can say, hey, I'm looking for a pattern that matches this pattern, and you can have essentially a search function searching large amounts of data looking for all of the elements that match that model. And so that's pattern matching. And so it's that's a simple way to describe how implicit techniques work inside of athlete data. Now, in athlete data, if you have technical data mixed in with health data, that becomes much harder to do because the goals for performance data, when you're looking at it, and the goals for athlete health data, they're not necessarily the same goals. One of them is being looked at by a physician, a doctor, an athletic trainer, like a ATC. Here in the States, we call them ATCs. Um, but when you're talking to the coach, right? An actual performance coach, the technical data they're looking at is more around the speed, the distance. Hey, is this guy faster than this guy, or how should we match them? And so that implicit side is very easy to do. Um, the new large language models that have come out help users get to an actual result, an outcome, an explanation, if you will, to help users understand what's in that data. So how it works, there are some variety of techniques, but again, you're essentially creating a data pipeline. You're bringing in that data, you're crunching that data, and you're creating a visual graph usually. And this data pipeline, can be built into something that is near real time. So, you're really only limited by how fast you can compute. So that would be your cloud resources, maybe even your telemetry systems, right? Because you have to send the data. It has to come from somewhere to someplace. So yeah, so that's how things work today. In most of the athlete management platforms have some type of AI that they apply, and that's getting to be very, very common.
Okay. So, as we are talking about data and you being into the industry from years and decades, like a very crucial question, like how can we, what are the measures taken for data privacy and how can it be used ethically?
Yeah. Um, well, most of the athletes, I mean, the NBA, so basketball is a little bit different. The players union did come together, I think in 2018, somewhere 2018, maybe that was when I believe they came together and actually prevented or put a limitation on the data that that can be extracted from the video. So so most people don't know this, but we'll go back a little bit. So about 2010, the NBA finished a very high level project where they put high definition cameras in every sporting event that they play in. Okay, so every major NBA team has a high definition camera system throughout their infrastructure, the roof, around the scoreboards, looking down at the players, and so they're tracking every player and the ball, and but they're also able to extract a lot of other data from that video. So video has a lot of data in it. One of the early pioneers of collecting all of this data was a company out of Switzerland called Dartfish. I'm sure there was a company before them. Maybe they were Swiss. I don't know. But Dartfish really kind of became popular among the athlete performance folks, especially at the Olympic level, for conducting measurements inside of video. So using algorithms, you can make some pretty accurate statistics, some accurate analytics around, how far someone's hand moves. We can see this now in the gymnastics tools that have been built. So a few years ago, the IOC got with the World Federation of Gymnastics, and they created a camera system to help the judges. So they have something similar to something like Dartfish, but I think they custom built it. Now that's not necessarily AI, right? They're essentially just reporting analytics from the video, and so in the gymnastics tool, one of the interesting things that they do is that all the data creates that model, and they're able to fit that model into different routines, so the system can actually go and match uh, the video from the athlete, from the gymnast, with different routines to help the judges move a little bit faster and make better decisions about what that athlete did that fit that particular movement and the routines. So I hope that helps explain.
Absolutely.
A little
So,
bit.
like people are talking about burnout of the athletes. So, is there anything, to predict or prevent the overtraining or the burnout of the athletes over the period of time?
Absolutely. There's essentially there is enough research now that and across vast number of sports that proves that there is a recovery period. There is burnout, there is injury risk so you can imagine if you're just collecting data around a player, and that player has to go to practice, right? Maybe 2 times, 3 times a week. Your favorite cricket team is probably practicing 2 to 3 times a week, and they're really working hard to mimic the rigor of a real game, a real match. So they're working very hard. Well, it turns out that if they don't have enough time to recover, that they're more and more likely to injure themselves. So the training becomes really critical to monitor, because you don't want to wear out your player before they actually get to the game. Now, a lot of those players will tell you they feel perfectly fine and there's nothing wrong, and I can play, coach, put me in. But what we know from the data is that yes, you worked too hard, and the coach might have pushed you a little too hard, or maybe you drank too much coffee that day, and you were just all over the place, and your practice was great, but you also approach a limit where the data says that you could be injured. So they're able to make predictions about injury. It's pretty common now. That's not, I would say that's depending on how they do that, they could be have an AI component to it, but it's really a statistical model where um, we know there's a gray area where you could be pushed too far to get hurt. And that's just over years and years and years of understanding muscles, tendons, biomechanics, how the body moves, how the body recovers after it's worked really hard. So the science behind all of that is pretty accurate. Um, Now, of course, there's the payoff because remember the athlete is working on two things. The athlete's working on their personal health data. I want to have a lower heart rate. I want to be able to handle heat. Maybe they have to play in a hot environment. Um, and then, so that's one type of data. And then the other is the technical data, their performance, how fast and how powerful they swing the cricket bat, right? So the athlete the athletes are a little bit at odds with the people who are actually monitoring the data. So it's very common for the athletic trainers or the sports medicine people to go have a word with the athlete and check them out, cool them down quickly, get them, a massage or put on some compression boots. Those are common to help work out the lactic acid to help the muscles recover. But yes, AI is a great tool for making predictions about from probabilities side of things to more sophisticated algorithms.
Okay. Like, this is a question, like, everyone keeps on talking that as AI has entered the market, it is going to replace human beings. So, like, like, true it is that is it going to replace the traditional coaching methods, or is it going to help in advancement or the enhancement if used hand in hand?
That's a great question. Um, it does touch ethics a little bit. Um, of course, I come from a family of scientists working in artificial intelligence. Um, I I know from those decades and decades of research, because I've read lots of research papers, conference papers, books, so forth. I'm not classically trained in artificial intelligence, but I know that the dream and desire for artificial intelligence to democratize tasks that require skill, um, so that everyone, for example, can have a coach in a box, or everyone can have. I'm very skeptical of that, and there's some reasons for that, and I'll share that with you here. Um, the value of what the artificial intelligence or the system, the software, it's just software. The value of what that system does is only based on the value of the knowledge that a human has. So what you're going to find is that it's going to be very hard for the implicit camp, the data science people, to describe the world, really to describe a job. I'll even go smaller to describe a job, a whole job function through data alone. They'll have a very hard time doing that. And that's because it's just, there's a lot more to what we do as humans and how we work. If you're not trying to build something based on a human mimicry or the human brain, neuroscience, and so forth, are you really doing artificial intelligence or are you just doing machine intelligence? Because that's really two different. That's not even part of the conversation, really. So artificial intelligence isn't going to be taking anyone's jobs, but what it will be doing, and it's already started to do, is speed up workflows and speed up decisions and speed up the um, decision processes to validate expertise, knowledge, human expertise, that knowledge side. And so the knowledge side of AI, the explicit side, the systems engineering side, they come at the problem with more interest in causality, right? What caused these things, and how can I model that? And how can I make a graph that actually has nodes on it that actually describe a task or a plan or an activity or a way of thinking, right? So the systems engineering people are starting to come together with the data science implicit side, but I'll tell you, everyone always underestimates the power, the capability of humans. So I don't think anyone's going to be out of a job anytime soon, not in my lifetime. But I do think that workflows and business will move much faster, and your expertise in something will be captured. You can bet on that. So but I don't. I think you're gonna have expertise captured around, for example, our discussion, athletic training. Right? There's lots of books. There's lots of information about it, but no one really is going through the trouble of creating a knowledge tool that can access all of that information. Right now, we still have the data science trying to do something like that with large language models, where large language models have all of this data in it, almost like a giant encyclopedia, and then you can just query it and ask it all kinds of crazy questions, and it seems really smart, but it doesn't have any knowledge inside of it. It's just accessing data that it's extracted from information. And we gotta always remember as technologists to go back and remember that data is very unique. It's different from information. And information is very unique. It's different from knowledge. So data, information, and knowledge are what we're trying to apply artificial intelligence to. And so I think it's really interesting that the two camps are coming together. Um, and no, I don't think anyone's going to be losing a job anytime soon.
So, like, it's good to say that you as a coach or you as a person need to evolve and learn how AI works.
Yeah, I think it's really important that, I mean, I know I have maybe a different way of describing what how I see the marketplace and the techniques that are applied. There are lots of techniques, for example, case-based reasoning. No one talks about case-based reasoning. Well, that's actually an AI technique. Other techniques are lesser known, like auctioneering. No one knows about auctioneering. So there are lots of different techniques for artificial intelligence for describing how things work, in encoding that information in a knowledge format. So knowledge can be designed in a graph. It's in your head, right? Knowledge is, you have natural knowledge in your mind, right? But then we have to try to operationalize that knowledge and encode that knowledge in software. It turns out that the best way to do that, the most efficient way to do that, is through graphs.
Okay. David, I have many questions still to ask you, but we
Okay.
will try to wrap up. The last question is, what is the biggest challenge, or what are the biggest challenges right now, like, which you can foresee coming in the future, like related to AI and sports
Yeah.
technology and into the domain, basically?
Yeah, well, I think anyone who knows anything about LLMs, these large language models, you'll have heard of something called hallucinations. Um, and really, that should open your mind as to how it is that um, information can be structured. So I think one of the biggest challenges is something called instantiation, and that's where you're able to prove something. You just can't prove things through LLMs today. There are some research teams at Anthropic and some other companies who are trying to work on this problem, but there's no visibility or transparency into any of these systems. Neural nets, machine learning, deep learning, recursive learning, any of those things that are the data science side. So I think one of the biggest challenges ahead is to figure out the role of what knowledge graphs can do to explain information, to prove, to be auditable, to be traceable. And so that's one of the big challenges ahead. And I think it's the systems engineering side knows how to do this. I think the data science side is going to have to let go of some ideas that they have, and they're going to have to come together.
Okay, perfect. Now we'll jump on to the next round. It is the rapid fire questions. I will throw away few questions and you will have to be very quick in answering those.
I will try my best.
Okay. The first question, one sport tech gadget you can't live without.
Oh, uh, sports tech gadget I can't live without. Um, I have a fitness watch with a tracker on it, and I love that it listens to me snore.
Okay,
I
okay.
love it because my fiance says you snored last night, and I say no, I didn't, and I can show her.
True, true.
So
Uh,
anything with sleeping, I think that's neat. So sleeping trackers is really cool.
okay. The most exciting AI innovation in sports today.
Ooh. I'm very hard to please on that. I think I've seen some really neat work on bioengineering side of things, the biotech side with some new sensors that can do very accurate sugar monitoring, um, carbohydrates, essentially. I think those wearable sensors that's the future. There's going to be more of them. They'll be combined. They'll fuse them together. They'll have more of them, and I think that is the future is gather more granular data from other areas about how the body works.
Okay. Who is your favorite athlete?
Who's my favorite athlete? Oh wow. Um, Probably it's a baseball player because I follow baseball a little bit. And he's a Venezuelan baseball player who plays here in Atlanta. His name is Acuna.
Okay. If you could apply AI to any one sport, which one would it be?
Well, I had a startup many years ago trying to apply AI to Formula One. I would love to get back to that. The technology worked perfectly. That wasn't the issue. I had some other issues going on with my company. But I would like to circle back to that problem and um, try to solve the telemetry data overload from the vehicles. The engineers just have too much data, is really what they have.
Okay. AI in coaching, is it a game changer or is it overhyped?
Right now, it's a little bit overhyped because they can't tell you how it is that it came up with that answer. Remember, as experts, human experts, you can't just tell a human expert, here's the answer. Especially if you're in medicine or you're in an area where if the expert spent 20 years of his life in sports and you tell him this is the answer and he says how or why and you can't explain that, that's a problem. So so that'll have to be fixed. I think someone's going to have to try to solve that problem.
Okay. Last question is one stat every athlete should track.
One, say that again one more time.
One statistics every athlete
Oh,
should track.
uh, one step every athlete should track. Um, every athlete should track their money manager. Okay.
Okay.
Because they have lots of data, but they're going to become the next generation investors in sports tech. And they need to be careful who they let handle their money and what that money's going to. So I would say a wise athlete data point is to check your money manager.
Perfect. It was a perfect answer. So, like, now I will ask you one question. You have to answer it in 30 seconds.
Okay.
What do you see as the next big breakthrough in AI-driven sports performance analytics?
Um, what is the next big thing in analytics or AI? I think it's gonna be a custom algorithm. We're working on cognitive inspired, so neuroscience inspired algorithms. I think you'll see that coming soon.
Okay. Um, Thank you, David, for sharing wonderful insights.
Yeah.
And the whole podcast was really informational. Thanks again for joining us today.
Thank you. I hope I didn't bore you too much with too much technical stuff.
Not at all, not at all. Everyone, let's stay connected for more understanding on sports technology in the future. Hit the like button and subscribe the channel so you never miss on an episode. Don't forget to share it with your friends and families or whoever loves sports technology. That was David sharing his insights today. Thanks for tuning in. Until then, stay curious, stay inspired, and keep exploring. Bye, David.
Bye bye. Thank you.